Okay, this is another short screencast number 2, reproduction, and this one is the parts and functions of the female reproductive system. Okay, parts and functions of the female reproductive system. So as you can see, we have the ovary off to the left here. There's one to the right there as well. Left ovary, right ovary. The yellow again in the ovary. You see what is the life cycle of the egg as well. As the egg grows, ovulation would take place here, and this is what happens to the egg after, or I should say, the follicle after ovulation. It actually turns into a hormone-producing portion until we find out whether she's going to be pregnant or not. So the cycle, we'll talk about the menstrual cycle coming up. All right. The egg is pulled by the fimbriae here into the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is also called an oviduct. You can use that term, oviduct. All right, fallopian tube, which is attached to the uterus. Okay, notice a female reproductive system fun fact. If you're taking a look here, the ovary extension is actually also attached to the musculature of the uterus, but this is not a tube into the uterus. So the egg has to move, and generally fertilization takes place within the fallopian tube, somewhere within the fallopian tube, and it moves into the uterus, where the egg will implant itself into the mucousy, blood vessel-rich lining of the uterus called the endometrium, and there it will implant. If pregnant, things like a placenta will grow out of that. Talk about that coming up. All right. The opening into the uterus itself is called the cervix. Okay. And then the opening out of her body, the birth canal, is the vagina. All right. So you see the 6 parts there and specific functions. Again, we focus on the ovary, the endometrium, the fallopian tube, and the uterus. All right. So sperm cell entry through the vagina up through, both will go in. One fallopian tube should have an egg per cycle. All right, let's bring up her notes and take a look at them. All right, and we'll take a look at the side view as well. All right, so you see here, you take a look at the side view. All right, notice you have your uterus, thick musculature of the uterus. You under it, yes, you have the urinary bladder. So 2 tubes. She has a separate urethra. Gentleman's urethra is one and the same, and a separate vaginal cavity. Back here, just for purposes, you've got the rectum. All right, so urinary bladder, a pubic bone going on. You really can't see the ovary and the fallopian tubes well, but they are in fact there. Let's bring up the notes there. Bring them all up here. All right, so you see their ovary. So basically parts and functions, and this is a tube. Oviduct is a tube. Okay, endometrium. So endometrium is actually sub to the uterus, part of the uterus, cervix, and vagina. So that will conclude this brief but all important talk of the female reproductive system.